Hello and welcome back, guys, to the All or Nothing Invitationals number 2, €1,000 up for grabs today. This is the finals, the second game right now, with Alternate picking up that first round with amazing play from Pharrell and Lord, just snowballing that advantage. I am Pulse, and I am once again joined by Metas. How are you doing, dude?
Good, man, I'm doing good, and yeah, Pharrell and Lord was really impressive that first game. Famous, of course, for his elo, being the top of the pile, but in this game showing that he's just as good against, you know, the likes of Fnatic. Very strong team. We were both kind of in agreement that Katarina made sense in a lot of ways, because there wasn't a lot of guaranteed CC, so to speak. It was, you know, got the charm, but it's not a definite stun. People can block it and such, but Ari really made that game work. It was a case of just pummeling mid, and once we said, once mid goes down, she can just roam wherever she wants to, and it's exactly what we saw. Just pushing mid, pushing mid, pushing mid, taking over the jungles, and also it's important to note that Nunu did some great buff steals as well.
Yeah, it was just the entire team came together, and it's like they knew how to snowball that advantage. And it was only First Blood, but even from First Blood, we could already see like how they were just swarming over them, and all over the board they were just pushing them back. Like bottom lane didn't go too well because obviously Caitlyn was First Blooded and she was into that lane later, so they already had the advantage. Mid obviously had the kill, I believe, so she was just able to pummel Katarina, and it was no real response for it. And every time she just jumped in, it was a perfect charm from Ari, just counter-initiating that. And top was kind of just like away from the entire world, but even so, like with the rest of the team crumbling around him, there was nothing really Soaz could do about it.
Yeah, because Malphite, of course, is what I mean to say. So I was playing Malphite, not Maokai.
One's a rock and one's a tree.
Yeah, they are pretty similar, I guess, a lot of aspects. But in that game, you know, Malphite is very good at changing something with a big kind of smash. You know, he just jumps in with the unstoppable force and suddenly everybody is CC'd, etc. But Irelia is better at just constant kind of eating away your kneecaps. She's just constantly there, she's constantly harassing and hindering you. So even though the top lane wasn't really firing on all cylinders in terms of action and kills, when Irelia started to join the fight, it was much easier for her to just kind of synchronize in with the rest of her team and make a big impact. So you have Irelia jumping in, then at the back of the heap, Pharrell and Lord just going crazy with all his skill shots, and it just worked really well. It complemented each other really greatly. But here we are, Pulse. We're in the picks and bans. I think I'm slightly behind you because I'm watching the stream, but I see Jace, Graves, and Udyr for Alternate, and for Fnatic, I see Zyra again, Skarner, and a potential Annie pick.
Yep, that's we don't have anything locked in, but everything else you've stated has been correct. Oh, wow, Misfortune being locked in from Fnatic. That's interesting. Like, we haven't seen a Misfortune pick for a long time. Definitely not in competitive play. She received a recent touch-up to her ultimate, but interesting. I'm really interested in seeing what type of composition they want to run here, and the potential Yorick pickup as well.
Yeah, her ultimate's now like an instant cast. It's just instantly going to fire out the bullets. She also had a bit of a touch-up to her passive, which I believe is called Strut, where it doesn't take as long for her to get that back anymore. So it's going to make her maneuverability around the map much better. But a problem that I've always had with Misfortune is a similar problem that I've had with Ashe, although Ashe I think has more of an impact later on with, of course, her arrow. But Misfortune has no escapes. If she's burnt her flash, she is really ripe for the taking if you just get a bit of CC down. So for example, in this team, obviously they haven't all locked in yet, but they have an Udyr, and they're kind of toying with the idea of a Taric Graves bot lane, it would appear, from what I'm seeing. Froggett's just going crazy with his champion picks at the moment. Hopefully he's going to lock in something soon, but either way, hard CC onto Misfortune, if she doesn't have that flash up, is incredibly devastating. She can't really get away from that. If you have a look at an Ezreal, for example, who of course has been banned this game, was so strong last time, he can just arcane a shift away. If he sees a Taric stun coming down at him, he can just arcane shift away, etc. So Misfortune's interesting. She does a lot of damage, she's incredibly strong as she gets fed, but she's ripe for the taking at the same time.
Yeah, like her early game is super strong, and it's basically, once again, they're running with this kind of like balls deep, very all-in composition, and I do feel that's what Misfortune is. You have to get rolling to really do well, and I was really sad that they didn't pick up the Fizz, because I really enjoy watching Kaostv, which is just one of the joys in life. But we will have once again the Ari pickup, and I'm surprised they didn't ban that out. I suppose they were more afraid of the Orianna, and Nunu caused a lot of problems for them, and especially the Sona just being so strong. That was just a kind of a blanket ban that they needed to get out of there. But a Zilean pickup as well. That is interesting, because generally we see the Zilean pickups when you have like a super strong top laner you want to keep alive, or you have like a high priority ally who's like very balls deep and trying to get in there, especially with the Jarvan as well. Lots of very unconventional picks coming from Fnatic, and I guess they're just trying to throw in the curveball.
I can understand it though. I can really understand it. Jarvan and Misfortune is such a strong combination. When the Cataclysm gets dropped, that's a green light for Misfortune to go crazy with the bullet time. Pretty much uncontested and untouched. Also, we were saying before, you know, Misfortune, she doesn't have a great amount of escapes, but what she is really good with is a Zilean, because if everyone just focuses onto Misfortune and Zilean pops off his ultimate onto Misfortune, she just pops back up again and does loads and loads of damage. So it makes a lot of sense. Alongside the Skarner as well, of course, Impale into bullet time is serious pain, and then Enrated onto Zyra, the Stranglethorns and the Grasping Roots, again with Misfortune, is just going to be incredible. But we've said this all before, even the best plans can be amazing, the execution maybe not quite so. So it's really going to be down to how Fnatic utilise this composition that they've gone for.
Yeah, definitely. It can always look fantastic on paper, but it might not work out in practice. So right now, as we're ticking down onto the delay, is there anyone you would like to take a look at runes and mastery-wise?
Well, we've bigged up Misfortune so much, let's have a look at Candy Panda then.
Let's take a look at that. Maybe he's running something different from the average sort of AD build. He's going for the magic resist flat and then magic resist scaling as well. So he's got half and half. Actually, got 3 of the scaling, and then the rest will be flat. Going for the extra attack damage plus 15 and then 13 armor. So fairly standard with a bit more scaling in there as well. Kind of scared of the a lot of AP presence from the enemy team. We'll be going 29, 2 and 7. So going straight for the resistance, extra magic resist once again, as we were talking about, kind of scared of the AP presence. A point in Summoner's Resolve and a point in Summoner's Insight, so looking for defensive Summoner and Flash as well. And going straight down to Executioner for the extra damage, just from the raw power of the AD carry.
Again, it makes a lot of sense though, Pulse, because you want that magic resist against an Ahri. She's so good at just manoeuvring around in team fights, like around the sides and firing in the Orb of Deception. You just want to block as much damage as you possibly can against Freljord, because he's going to land pretty much 95% of whatever he throws out. So it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. So anyway, we're going to jump to a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we will be in the second map between Fnatic and Alternate. Stay tuned, guys, for this potentially amazing game. Welcome back, guys, to the second round of this best of three rather. What the heck is happening to my English? I am Pulse, and I'm joined by Metas once again. How are you doing, dude? And what do you expect to happen in the first couple of minutes of this next match?
I'm doing good, and it warms me to see that Candy Panda has gone Candy Cane Misfortune. It had to happen. It just simply had to.
Yeah, very, very classy.
It's not a skin you see that much, actually, but I'm happy that he whipped it out for this game. Also important to note that we were mentioning before Zilean, can resurrect Misfortune and say, have at it. But Jarvan, Soaz in this game is going to have to be quite aggressive because he's that initiating, engaging kind of character alongside Skarner. So Zilean really is going to need to pick the right opportunities and right moments here. Pekka is going to have to make use of his ulti. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how it pans out. In the meantime, we have both teams actually going for an invade. And not too sure what's going to happen here.
Yeah, in fact, Alternate have put down a ward at their blue buff, so if Fnatic actually go out and look to flank them around the corner, expecting maybe for that Skarner to be there. Wait a minute, nope, Skarner's on their team. They're expecting whether the Bear Man will be there, then if they turn the corner, then they'll know they're there, and they might go for a flank. This could be a really, really strong level 1 for Alternate. I definitely feel they're in the commanding position. That being said, they still don't know where they are. They haven't turned that corner. I'm going to see them. Got a couple of recalls from Fnatic as well, and Alternate is going to walk straight past them down into the bottom jungle.
Yeah, interesting play here. So 3 Fnatic are going to remain lurking around. Going to steal all walls and maybe afterwards try and get their blue. But as you said, there is a ward down in this bush. So at this point, you're seeing the marks and the pings going down here from Alternate. They know exactly what is going on. This blue is being stolen. And looks like they may try and retaliate by stealing the opposition blue. Not entirely sure, because Udyr instead has just gone straight for his red buff. And it appears that he could very well be going for that blue buff after all. Indeed, he is going to be running towards blue, so it looks like they're going to just try and exchange these buffs.
Yeah, it's very interesting whether they might actually go for the invade and try and pick up Skarner, because they know his position on the map. At the very least, they'll know where he is, and that might stop some of those early ganks from Skarner. Because he does have some pretty decent ganks with people out of position. Skarner is actually moving towards his blue buff. I think they expect this to happen. A lot of mind play happening right now. Sion's going to see Frogger, going to jump onto him, landing the first Crystal Slash into the slow as well. Ari kind of blocking Zilean from really following up. Zyra coming down from the bottom as well to potentially assist, but Frogger duking up, so he's only really getting damage from Sion at the moment, drawing him down to about 50% HP. Frelenord also coming in, blocking off that Zilean once again, and forcing him out of the jungle. So right now, that was a really good trade. However, Zyra potentially in a dodgy situation as the bot lane looks to maybe cut them off. Ward goes down by Leo from Korea. Anna's going to see that, and that puts them in a really awkward situation. Are they going to carry on with this? And bot lane's going to go ahead and try and help them. They're committing time to this, Metas, and they have to do it, but is it worth it?
Well, I think for Cyanide, that worked out incredibly well, because he has blue buff, so he's able to just spam away with, of course, his Crystal Slash all he wants to, and Udyr burnt a lot of mana there just to escape. So you can see it's being reflected in the sense that Cyanide also picked up his blue, so successfully stole the blue from Frogger, took his own, and he is now a level above, so looking incredibly good for Fnatic in that case. But Misfortune and Zyra, as you said, did have to go up to blue and help out, and they lost a tiny bit in the process of doing that. Graves 20, Misfortune 10. But the CS wave is pushing towards Fnatic's tower, so maybe they are going to regain some of that momentum back in their favour again.
Yeah, that being said, the experience difference is really, really negligible at this point, so yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But it's all about whether they can actually get in this lane. Once again, they really have this sort of strong laning phase, but it's also down to like the poke. And once again, we have Alternate with the hard initiate, with that Metal Egg on the Graves from Leo from Korea, looking for that CC and the follow-up. Because Graves Leona is such a massive burst lane. Like, there's so much damage that can come from it. And basically, Candy Panda is just going to try and get him to that point, poke him down, so he really can't go for that initiate. Because if he gets to that point where he'll initiate and die anyway, because they're too low really to commit. Cyanide's got that blue buff and the red buff. Very low though, being spamming out those Crystal Slashes. Interesting whether he'll actually go for those engages. But that being said, down the bottom, once again, we'll have Enrager just pushing them back with those slow plants. And once again, they just can't initiate. He is level 3, this is the prime opportunity to do so if they want to.
Yeah, meanwhile at top though, Skarner has pushed his way around into that top bush. Did see a ping go down, so it's very possible that Alternate know exactly exactly what's going on. And judging from Jace, yes, indeed he does. Fires out the Q. Going to be jumping in with the Ignite as well. Is he going to completely commit to this kill? Yes, he will. And he actually picks up the first blood, gets the double buff, and suddenly Kerp out of nowhere goes massive. In the meantime, in mid lane, Zilean will be picking up that kill on towards Ari, but will go down in the process from Frogget. So, exquisite play from Kerp at the top lane, using that gank against Fnatic. So well executed, and with that double buff, Soaz is in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, that's really what Jace needed to dominate that top lane, and that was such a good play. Like, he saw him there, and he calculated his damage perfectly. Like, he went in with the Thundering Blow to knock him away, so he couldn't deal any more damage. He knew how much damage the tick from the Ignite was going to do, and he knew Crystal Exoskeleton wasn't going to be up because he'd already popped it. So, he just calculated it perfectly, knew that Soaz really couldn't retaliate with any sort of damage. And right now, he's just sieging, and with that double buff, as you said, that's going to be so difficult for Jarvan really to get back into that lane. That's really might be the deciding factor in that top lane, if not maybe spanning to the roaming phase as well.
Yeah, because Shock Blast only costs 65 mana for Jace, so he's going to be able to consistently just pop that out and harass Soaz. Soaz has been forced to recall actually at this point and is now falling behind on XP, and the top lane is being pummeled. But just going back to a point that you made earlier with the bot lane, that kind of horrifically terrifying lane of Leona and Graves together. It's like we were saying before, that if Miss Fortune gets caught here without flash from Leona's Zenith Blade, and then of course the follow-up of both the Shield of Daybreak and the Solar Flare, she will die very, very quickly, because of course you're just going to have the collateral damage fired in, and also the buckshot from Graves, and that's going to be 100-0 Candy Panda in the blink of an eye. It's so, so scary.
Yeah, it's actually getting to that position now as we have a flash from N-Rated looking to pin these guys down. Slow will land onto Leo from Korea, but Miss Fortune knows that she really can't commit, and got to be careful, because if you go too near that turret, they could turn it around very easily on very low health. That burst, as you said, can happen in a heartbeat, and obviously just bursting them down so quickly they can't really react to it. So no matter how low they really are, if they are in that retreating position where she can land the perfect Zenith Blade in a straight line, then yeah, it could mean instant death.
Absolutely. Very, very scary. But they have recalled the bot lane, and the aforementioned Miss Fortune Candy Panda is just going to pop the bullet time, take that CS wave, and then recall herself. So how much gold is in the back pocket of Miss Fortune? 1,630. And Grave just went back and built himself up 2 Doran's Blades and also a Berserker's Greaves. And Miss Fortune's actually going to go for the Ninja Tabby Boots here. So, interesting play from Candy Panda. But understandable when you have a Jace against you. He is very much a scary AD threat.
So Matters, you main AD right now, and from the perspective of Miss Fortune, we were saying there's a very interesting pick. But with that ultimate, with a slight buff to it, do you think it's viable as actually viable as an attack mechanism, or still like a wave clear, as we just saw rather Candy Panda just use it on bottom lane?
Well, I think the reason Candy Panda used it, obviously, is because he intended to go back and obviously wanted as much gold as possible. It's very good at clearing waves. But to answer your question, I think on its own, it's not exactly too terrifying, but as I said in Champion Select, when you couple it with an ultimate like Cataclysm from Jarvan, where he's going to lock everybody in place in Skarner, it does a lot of damage. It kind of sneaks up on you. You don't realise how much it does until you stood in it the entire time. So I think it is viable, but you have to trigger it together with a couple more ultimates or a couple more abilities. Similar to a Graves, actually. Collateral damage does a lot of burst damage, but it's always utilised much better when you can lock them down and just burst them in the face.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. They do need kind of like the synergy from the rest of the team, and I think they do have that. Right now, once again, they really have a lot of utility from just their picks in general, and they may just need to kind of draw out into that sort of roaming phase. Right now, Xpec is just putting more damage with those bombs, and we were saying this before, I can't remember if we were on stream, I think we were just in the loading screen, but Cyanide actually coming in here, forcing Frelen's ultimate, will be jumping back in though. Bomb goes down, will that be enough to finish off Frelen? Or yes, it will. It's just that awkward moment where it's just like, oh, that's gonna kill me, and there's just like nothing you can do about it. Meanwhile, Soaz jumping onto Kerp, knocking him through the Cataclysm, so he can't escape from it, stopping himself from getting the damage from the turret, and the Dragon Strike will finish him off.
It's like one of those situations, like you were saying before, when a Karthus Requiem comes out, and you're like, oh my god, I'm dead. And there's nothing I can do. I'm just dead.
It's so depressing.
Meanwhile, at bot, though, we are going to have a chase ensuing from N-Rated. Can he land the Grasping Roots? Yes, he can. And the Stranglethorns. It's exactly the time when Misfortune shines. Eagle, the ultimate has been popped off, and it's going to be a double kill. And as if to answer the question you asked before, Pulse, yes, the ultimate is more than good enough in the right hands when it synergizes as well. So you had the Stranglethorns, the Grasping Roots, and the Impale from Skarner, and Misfortune just standing there and unloading. Double kill. Lovely play.
That was just wombo combo. We had like Cyanide coming in there as well, but the fact that he lined up against the bottom of the turret, there was nowhere for Metal X to go, and he knew it, and it was just that situation where he just knew he was going to die, and with just that massive pain coming from Candy Panda, it's very difficult to underestimate that, and they will be moving on to that Drake as they knew they had that advantage. Becky around that area, also Jarvan heading down as well. So right now, they are pulling back into it, and Fnatic are now ahead by 3 kills and about 2k gold as well. They're in a good position from that first blood.
Yeah, Misfortune as well. It's not just a case that the ultimate is very strong, but when she pops the W, the impure shots, she at level 3 gets 40% attack speed increase for 6 seconds. That is massive. Especially when you have a lot of CC on your team, it just allows her to go completely balls to the wall aggression and pick up kills here, there and everywhere. So at this point, Graves is ahead on CS, not by a lot, but of course with the double kill and the Drake going down in favour of Fnatic, he is behind. In total, just about 1k after 11 minutes, still a very close game.
Yeah, definitely. So we have the mobility boots picked up by that Skarner. More damage coming out from Xpeke, more harassed than anything. And Kerp looking to counter jungle Cyanide right from underneath his nose. We'll be picking that up. Kerp slightly just misjudging the damage from his Thundering Blow and knocking it straight to Cyanide. And he's like, oh, thanks, auto attack. And we'll be walking off very happy with that red buff.
Good guy, Kerp.
Like, hey, I'm going to counter jungle you, but you can have the last hit.
Yeah, we'll give him the benefit of doubt. He's just being a nice guy. He's in a good mood. You know, give Cyanide the red buff. In the meantime, Candy Panda is going to be putting down some serious pain. He needs to be careful because that's exactly what I was expecting to happen. Leona can turn it around. It's exactly what is going to go down here. Stranglethorns does go down. Here comes Misfortune's ultimate as well. And Cyanide giving chase but unable to land anything, just slightly out of position. But that is the scare. And that is the terrifying thing about Leona. You can be chasing a 1 minute and then be stunned for the next couple seconds. And it's very, very scary. Either way, Udia has came down to try and help out and fix some of those cracks that have been formed courtesy of Candy Panda. But you are going to have a recall coming from Leona, and then I believe Graves is probably going to take these golems and recall himself.
Cyanide's going to do the same. He's also around that area. Good counter gank. And Kerp going to be jumped on. Cataclysm comes down from Soaz and knocking him out of the Cataclysm. Wow, that was really janky. Did you see him walk through Cataclysm?
I actually wasn't looking at top lane, so I didn't see anything, unfortunately.
That was really weird. He knocked him out with the Thundering Blow straight through the Cataclysm, and then Soaz just walked back in again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Alright, well, yeah, Graves did recall. He's picked up a BF sword. Let's have a look at Misfortune. Pretty much the same story there, but the good news for Misfortune is she has a Vampiric Scepter, so sustain-wise, going to be very, very nice for her. Let's have a look at mid lane. How is Ari doing? Of course, last game, Freljord Lord at this point had literally 8 or 9 kills, and that isn't even exaggeration, guys. If you missed the first game, he was on fire. This time around, 0 kills and 2 deaths. 95 CS to Zillion's 102, and Zillion has 102 CS and 2 kills to Zillion. So he is obviously ahead at this point. And Ari, it's strange, isn't it, how League of Legends works, Pulse? One game you can be dominating, the next can be quite a slow one for you.
Yeah, and I think that really comes down to, like, it's interesting how player skill really comes into it. Like, you can have the same champion on, like, a complete noob, and then you can have the same champion on a complete pro, and the amount you can do. And, like, a lot of like MMO players have said to me in the past, it's like, well, you only have, like, what, 4 skills? How can you do anything with that? And it's just like, well, there's so many small quirks, and there's so many things to each character, which can really just come into play, especially with the summoner spells. There's so many different combinations, and so many things you can do with League of Legends. Well, that's, like, a huge topic of its own, really.
Yeah, we could literally discuss that for an hour, because it's all those small things that make such a huge difference in League of Legends when you get to this kind of level. You know, of course, on top of the 4 abilities you get the 2 summoner spells as well, and they are used in an entirely different way. It's about how your team synergizes, it's about counter-picking, and how your team kind of resolves the situations around the map. You could go on and on and on, but the simple fact of the matter is that thus far, Peke is doing a really nice job of just containing Ari, and we said this in the loading screen, that we both think that Zilean was picked not to allow Ari to snowball as badly as before, because Zilean does have a get out of jail for free card. If Ari starts to go crazy on him, he can just pop the ultimate on himself and completely shut down that possibility of a death. So you are seeing a huge difference here, that when Pharrell Lord is a bit quieter, his team as a result is much quieter too.
Yeah, and that really spans from the fact that mid lane is very important. Like, if that mid tower falls, that's a huge hit to your team. That's a large area of the map which is really cut off. And your mid lane as well can roam. Like, APs are really strong in that mid game. And it's really how they scale as well. Skarner was looking for a gank for a long time down in that bottom lane. Just not going to happen. He really wants that pressure to really be exerted. But meanwhile, mid, Curve jumping in along with Cyanide. Apprenticeship has gone down for Cyanide. It will be dropped just in the second. Curve flashing out of the Cataclysm. Ultimate has been popped by Fred and looking to follow up onto XPK. He knows he used Apprenticeship on his ally. Pick up onto Curve. And now Frogger turning his attention to Soaz with that red buff as well. Turned into that bird form. Cyanide coming in from the side, potentially using the Crystal Slasher to peel him off. And Frogger knows this, and knows he's probably not going to be able to follow up on Jarvan, and doesn't really want to go for that dive either.
Yeah, really nicely played from Pharrell there, flashing through onto Wraith to make sure he escaped Skarner's wrath. And in the meantime, Frogger was very quick to react and get to that mid lane and provide some overwatch for his team. So nicely done there from Alternate. The engage did come in. It was a 1-for-1 exchange at the end, but lots of ultimates being popped down in the process. Soaz did try and recall, but Pharrell Lord is just going to halt that for now and waste a couple more seconds for Soaz. And it's going to just go to a standstill again. 16.5 minutes through the game, and you are going to actually have Leona jumping in here. Stranglethorns has been popped off. This could backfire big time on towards Leona. Leona goes down, and that was a questionable engage to say the least, Pulse. You're kind of jumping into a Stranglethorns and also a bullet time from Candy Panda if he so chooses to use it. And it's just kind of like, I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, and then following from now will be the Drake Pico. However, they are turning us around onto Curve. Enerator coming in from the side, looking for the grasping route. Lands it as well. Bomb will land. Frenlord potentially caught. Spirit Rush has been popped. Looking for the third charge right here. He still has one more, trying to get away from this onslaught. He should be good to go as Cyanide's exoskeleton has been popped, reducing that movement speed. But yeah, he was just jumping in there, very balls deep at bottom. But I guess it's just like, well, we're strong right now, we have the burst. But maybe at this stage, it's a bit too late into the game. It's 17 minutes first, and you have the counter initiate. They're really quite fed right now. Like, Miss Fortune's 3-0. He was, like, what, 2-0 before. And the Stranglethorns and the counter initiate from that sort of lane is very difficult to contend with. And I don't really think Graves have the damage. They don't have that potential that they have early game with those extremely strong base damages.
I guess the only thing that kind of springs to mind is that at the same time, Alternate were trying to take down Drake. So it could have been just a massive distraction where Leona's like, okay, you're taking Drake, I want to make sure their bot lane doesn't get anywhere near to it, so I'm going to put pressure on them. I'm going to apply that pressure and make sure that we do pick up Drake regardless of what happens. I'm assuming that's probably what it's down to, but either way, it didn't feel like it was an engage at the right time. It was kind of out of position. Graves didn't look ready for that one, judging from how quick he wants to run away from that situation. So it may be a lack of communication, maybe just a mistake, or maybe a smart plan to try and distract for Drake. Either way, that's in the past. Skarner is going to be coming out, and he's going to actually land the Impale on. Here comes Candy Panda in the meantime. You're going to have Leona jumping in as well, and Ari in the right place at the right time, doing lots and lots of damage. Is it going to be enough, though? The bullet time finally comes out, but it's going to be a shutdown courtesy of Ari, who's now chasing after Cyanide. So that is a 1-for-1 exchange at this point with Skarner very, very low on HP. Will he be able to escape? It looks more than likely as here comes Zillion, and of course he can come to the aid of Cyanide if he so needs. So 1-for-1 exchange, quite an interesting fight kicking off at bot lane.
Yeah, and it was all caused by, I just saw Graves moving towards that bush with Skarner in it, and it was just like, But Ari, coming to the rescue, knew that he was around that area and going for that gank anyway, so it did turn into a 3 versus 3. A lot of them falling very low, and here comes the Cataclysm from Soaz. Expected coming in the side, locked down by the charm for a brief second. Friend Lord will be picked up with that bomb. Soaz actually picking up that kill with an auto attack. Frogger has been slowed by the time warp, now following up with even more bombs. Soaz just with that onslaught, and there's the fail flash into the wall. There's the double kill for Soaz. Next, Pecky just trying to suicide. He's popped the Chrono Shift down. He wants to die.
That was close. That was close. Here comes Leona though. In the meantime, Jace from the top lane will be giving chase on towards Peke. He has pulled out his hammer. Can he land anything onto Peke? Looks likely. Here we go. The smash is down. Will pick up the kill onto Zillion finally. And now going to be giving chase onto Soaz. Acceleration gate has been used, forcing the flash from Soaz. but will he go for the tower dive? Well, thought about it for a couple of milliseconds and was like, nope, not worth it. But just going back onto the 2-for-0 exchange in mid, it was so smart from Soaz. He knew that Ari had just popped her ultimate in the previous exchange. In fact, hold that thought for a second, because here comes Skarner. Will he be popping ultimate? Yes, he will! Will get Jace, even though he tried to dash away there. And he will be getting taken down, courtesy of Zyra, Soaz, and also Cyanide on top of that. So well played. But just going back to the point I was trying to make before Skarner went crazy, Soaz knew that Ari's ultimate was down and the flash was on cooldown. That was the perfect time to pop Cataclysm onto Ari, because normally she'd have just Spirit Rushed out of there and been fine.
Yeah, it was a good use of knowledge of their cooldowns as well. This is something that a lot of players are just like, oh, well, did he have ultimate? Oh, I didn't know that. But it was just the fact that it also stems down from map awareness as well. He probably saw that fight bottom, saw the ultimate being used, and also knowledge of the characters as well, knowing those cooldowns. And as you said, just using that use of mechanics to lock him down. And there was nothing he could do in that situation with no mobility, because he had used that mobility, his signature sort of mobility move of being the Spirit Rush. So, right now, it's 5-11. They are pulling ahead, that being from the hands of Fnatic. They're about 4k ahead right now, and they are in a good position. So right now, generally we see Zilean kind of like the character that falls off, but Misfortune's doing really well, and he can really just seek to support his team, and support APs are always going to be really strong. Like, when it gets to late game, his damage is going to scale off, okay, and wow! I'm not sure if you saw that top lane, but...
I did!
Yeah, 0.5 seconds left, and meanwhile, bottom lane, they are trading off. Solarflare comes down into Zenith Blade, Frogger coming in from the side as well. Candy Panda will be picked up, along with N-Rated, and Frogger coming in just to secure that kill. But as the Zyra passive comes up, we'll be reclaiming that kill onto Graves, as Candy Panda DCs. And that could have been a result of a disconnect.
Yeah, looks to be the case. So, have you seen that video actually where Zyra goes into a passive and gets a triple kill?
I
think it was on Reddit. Oh, it's awesome, man.
We actually saw a double kill earlier today from a Zyra N-rated passive, which was pretty impressive. But I have not seen the triple. Somewhere in the world, like something that can be justified, it's just like, well, somewhere in the world of League of Legends, something must have happened. Such as like a pentakill from Zyra passive.
I would have to say it's more than likely, and I would love to see that. I absolutely would love to see that. But you were mentioning before, about the support AP of Peke, and you were saying that it's so useful, but the later this game goes on, he's going to fall off damage. I think one of the really great things, though, from the perspective of Fnatic at this point, is that Candy Panda with Misfortune is so strong late game. She is incredibly strong with the W, the impure shots. I mentioned it before. At level 3, it gave you 40% attack speed. At level 5, it's 50% for 6 seconds. And on top of that, of course, it's going to reduce your healing and your healing received and health regeneration by 50%. So against, for example, Graves with Bloodthirster, Misfortune is going to come out ahead on those kind of 1v1 duels, and she's going to be so strong in team fights. The Cataclysm will land. You can see right now that Jarvan is going with Triforce. He's going to be doing a lot of damage, and you got Skarner. So I'm feeling good about Fnatic's chances, but it's going to come down to those team fights, as we do actually have Candy Panda reconnecting, I believe.
Yeah, so it looks like they want to restart this game, but basically taking a look at those team fights, so you touched on it briefly. Really, Fnatic are looking for those more structured team fights where they have everyone in a group, getting that Cataclysm, and as you said before, chaining it up with the AoE from Candy Panda, also the AoE from Cyanide, not to be discounted, and the AoE CC from N-Rated. They're all about the AoE and the CC and the utility, whereas also they really want these spaced out team fights. They want everyone to be sort of split up, so Freljord can like dash in and dash out of these small skirmishes that are happening. Graves can start dueling off with a couple of people. Leona can peel easier, and Kerp is also starting to duel off, because all these champions are really good at duels. And as we say that, some action is breaking up at top. So as jumping onto Kerp, he has been ignited. Power form into the skies goes down, but he will be picked up immediately by Soaz as the shock blast comes in. And Sina also around on the area, supporting them out. Freljord in mid-area. He does not have a Spirit Rush for just a couple seconds, about 4 seconds left on that. Shurelius comes down into the Impale. He will have the ultimate as he comes out of it. Xpeke looking for the slowdown. There it is. Bombs coming out as well. Second Spirit Rush, and looking for the third as well, as Metal X comes from the side to his aid. Looking to deal some damage onto Xpeke. Chrono Shift has been popped down, but he doesn't want to die in a bad situation, so they can just camp his corpse, and he will be backing off. Because obviously, if you can die with that, it will refresh a lot of your health as you come back from the dead.
Yeah, definitely. And we see Drake come back up once again. Currently 3.4k gold advantage in the hands of Fnatic. A couple of pings going down towards bot lane. Will they try and pick up this Drake is the question on my mind. They're going to have to wait for Zilean, so it's not going to be for another 10-15 seconds at least. But you can see that all 10 players are congregating around the mid area at this point in time. So you have to feel that something truly huge could be kicking off very shortly. Drake has been attempted, is still being attempted from Fnatic. In the meantime, here comes the acceleration gate. Nice shock blast landing onto the very squishy end rated. We are going to have a full-on engage kicking off here. Stranglethorns and the bullet time from Misfortune both go on top of each other. Not a great amount of damage going down. Skarner picked up Drake in amongst all the action. You do have the ultimate popping off on top of end rated. Double kill for Soaz, who is on 7 for 0 at this point, just managing to survive by the skin of his teeth. Charm lands on towards Misfortune. She's going to be giving chase on towards Frontline, doing so much damage at this point, but you have to be careful about Metal X because he's on full HP. Not for long, the Deathfire Grasp comes out, does so much, and the bomb on top of that's going to be an easy pickup from Misfortune, who flashes through the wall, chasing after Freljord, but isn't able to pick that one up. And yet again, we see a team fight kick off where 2 or 3 players are flashing up red, but nobody falls. That was a 4 for 0 exchange, could not have gone any better for Fnatic. They got Drake and 4 players killed.
Well, Fnatic just playing that really well, and at the start of the fight, it really looked like not too much damage is coming out. You actually commented on that yourself. But then, it seems like no one noticed the Jarvan just cutting into their squishy from behind, and eventually he just pulled into the double kill, and basically just started assisting the rest of his team, and they just cleaned up the mess. Like, it was just that Jarvan from behind that they really couldn't deal with, because they had their front line trying to stop those bruises, and trying to stop Misfortune from ripping into the squishies, and Jarvan just waltzed in from behind and started destroying them. But Frogget could be picked up here. He will be slowed down to about 50% HP. Freljord's around the area as well. Will be juking that charm. Freljord's got to be careful though. Make It Rain comes down, but he should be good to go. And the utility already you can start coming into play. You can see coming into play from Xpeke, that massive speed boost from that time warp.
Yeah, and of course on the flip side of that as well, Pulse, if they really want to focus like Graves down, for example, and they want to just get the AD carry out of there, or even an Ahri, they can use the speed up, of course, to also slow down. They can just be like, okay, we want to focus this player down, Zilean, pop off your time warp, and we'll take them out the equation as soon as possible. So that's what Zilean really does bring to the table. He's such a strong mid, and of course, such a strong AP support kind of character. Kerp is doing a lot of damage with that shock blast, but he's going to need to pull himself back. And it's important to note that we don't actually have any ward coverage here from Alternate on Baron, and this could get quite scary for them. Having said that though, Misfortune is at bot lane, and Zyra is in mid. So as soon as they see MF at bot, they're going to be like, phew, they're not on Baron, there's no way they're going to attempt that without their AD carry, and they're going to feel a tiny bit more comfortable.
Yeah, right now, do you think they're going to get desperate enough where they're like, oh, Misfortune bottom, should we go for the ballsy Baron move? But they do have a lot of people around that area, especially Jarvan, who is right now legendary, 8-0-1. So maybe not, maybe that is really not on the cards, really possible for them to do right now. But Misfortune is pushing down that bottom lane, probably going to regroup with her allies very shortly. And Zilean probably going to pick up that buff as well. Right now, Ultimates are being very aggressive. They're pushing once again into that sort of middle area. They are splitting up. They don't seem too afraid of Fnatic, and whether that's like a good attitude to have or a bad attitude, considering that they are behind and they lost that team fight pretty hard, and considering right now they are going to be ahead of it because of that team fight's result, whether they should be pushing out so hard.
Well, you know what you were saying just before, Paul, so I apologise, I just got a massive lag spike before. But you asked me if I thought the Alternate would go for a Baron when they saw Misfortune bot lane. I don't think they would, because obviously Misfortune with the Strut and the Phantom Dancer has 476 movement speed. She can get from bot to Baron actually really quite quick, deceptively quick. She's the quickest carry when she has Strut and a Phantom Dancer, for example, up, unless Sivir has her ultimate popped or something like that. She's just naturally very quick around the map. So it's one of those kind of situations where Alternate might be like, okay, we can force a Baron, but before you know it, Candy Panda has made the trek from bottom to Baron, and suddenly they're in a really tough situation which they simply can't win. On top of that, you've got an 8-0 Soaz in the mix, and also a Zilean and a Skarner alongside Zyra that are going to be very scary. Zyra went support, but she has Azoni's Hourglass, so she's doing a lot of damage at this point.
Yeah, definitely, and this could be an engage very shortly. Last time we saw the Chrono Shift actually being popped on Zyra, that was a teamfight interrupt they really needed because they're out of position. This could be an engage. Cyanide has been caught by the Charm as Frogget comes in from the side, and Leo Kumpir popping over the wall, but he will stand there just for a second. Cataclysm comes down. Frogget also trying to get onto the N-rated, but Misfortune is nowhere to be seen as she's just wailing on the rest of the team. So far, no one has actually fallen as XPK returns from the dead with that Chronos chip. Ultimate has been popped by Frelenord as well, using the second charge aggressively onto Soaz as he's around the area. Those just kiting them all day. No one has dropped yet. Leo from Korea will finally fall into the Impale from Scarlet straight onto Frelenord as he picks up that kill. Orb Deception will pick it up on the return. From Editor X also around the area looking to take him out, but Soaz on his face, and whether he can get out of this. Aegis has been popped as well, and there's no escape from the legendary Soaz, and rated from behind as well. And that will be a very messy 3-for-4 trade. Misfortune did get dropped, but they are still coming out ahead in that trade.
Yeah, messy is the right word, Pulse. That was a bit of a head scratcher. Peke did a really nice job of soaking up a lot of the damage and a lot of the harassment from the opposition of Ultimate, but at the same time his team were kind of scattered. I don't know if you noticed, but it was like they were focusing 4 different plays at the same time. There was no real cohesion or any kind of focus there. So it was one of the stranger 3-for-4 exchanges that I've seen for quite some time.
Yeah, definitely, and we saw Leona jump over the wall onto the Zillion and just stood there for a second, because like everyone had just left her, and he's just like, what? And then actually went back into the team fight. But it was just that sort of split second where like Leona was out of the team fight completely, was just completely separated, because he'd actually moved away from that area. But even though that wasn't like enough to secure the deal for Fnatic, yeah, again, it was just a very, very janky team fight. So nothing really you can draw from that, because it was a fairly equal team fight in that respect. We will be seeding down mid, picking up that middle turret, but right now those tier 3 turrets are very easy for either team to pick up. And trying to pick up that ward as it stealths. They do have an Oracle on Leo from Korea, but they didn't point it out. But I suppose the team is around the area anyway, so it's very difficult really for them to follow up on that. Yeah, and we're just waiting for the next team fight to unfold. So how do you feel like the next team fight, if it doesn't go like that, is going to basically unfold?
Well, after seeing that team fight, I think anything's possible at this point, boss. Sure. But yeah, again, it's just going to come down to how does Soaz engage, how does Cyanide engage from Fnatic's perspective, and how is Leo from Korea going to engage for Alternate? Because a lot rides on Leo here. You know, Udyr is quite good at getting in your face and stunning and that kind of thing. Of course, the charm from Ari is going to be great as well. But it's going to be down to how does Leona pop the Solar Flare? Who is she going to focus? Last team fight, she instantly did it on towards Misfortune to stop the bullet time. I feel if she'd waited a tiny bit longer until 2 or 3 players were bunched together and not just catching MF, the team fight could have gone slightly better from Leona and, of course, Alternate's point of view. So, in my opinion, it's going to come down to those kind of initiations. How does it all kick off? They are trying to do it on Enrated here, chunking him down to about 50% of his health, but the cavalry is there right next to him, so that's going to signify the end of that brief encounter. And you can see again, it's just that kind of dancing period where both teams don't want to fully commit, but they want to be close enough to contest things.
However, I think Fnatic want to be more aggressive because they know Frelenord's ultimate has been popped, because he was using it in that small source of skirmish because he thought something was going to happen.
Yep.
So they are looking for something to happen, and they know that that Ari's ultimate is on cooldown, so they are going to go ahead and back off.
Yeah.
Right now, Fnatic. Go ahead.
And the flash as well, Pulse. They know the flash is down.
Ah, yeah.
So Ari's maneuverability, one of the trademarks of Ari, is completely gone for the next... How long is left on flash? I'd say for the next 20 to 25 seconds, she has very little maneuverability at this point.
Yeah, also with that fact, like everyone's flash is down on alternate, apart from Leo from Korea, who literally just popped as we were talking about it. So they are in the best position when it comes to maneuverability, but there are quite a few flashes down from Fnatic as well. So maybe they're just waiting for all the summons to come up, because obviously a lot of those summons were popped in that last team fight, and I guess they don't feel confident enough really to go for that team fight without their own summoners.
Yeah, definitely. But one of the great things about Ari's Spirit Rush is it has a low cooldown, only 48 seconds. So it has already came back up, adds a charm onto Enrated. Look at the damage. Instantly dropping to just a few bars of health. And you could actually see an engage kicking off soon. Well, maybe not, because Jace is coming round from the back at the moment. He wasn't quite in position, and Grace is going to opt to go down to bot lane and try and pick up some farm. So while we have a bit of a lull in the action here, let's have a quick look at some of the items being picked up. You've got a GA Triforce and Hex Drinker onto the 9-for-0 Soaz, who has been playing really, really impeccably thus far, Pulse. I'm not sure if you'd agree, but I think he's been on the money pretty much every single time.
Yeah, for sure. Like, after the start as well, like, where the Kerp on Jace picked up that double buff and the kill onto Cyanide, it looked really bad for Soaz. And I was really underestimated the Jarvan pick as well, because we just don't see it anymore. But though Jarvan really is quite a dominant top laner, he's really strong, he's kind of like a lane bully as well, he's just a really competent laner. So, yeah, he's really been doing work for their team this game. Amazing.
You also have a GA onto Misfortune, and that is... I mean, Candypan must be licking his lips right now, because that is pretty tasty for him. Not only does he have the chronosphere shift coming from Zilean, nearly called it a chronosphere there, shows my red alert there, it's a bit too much. So he's got the chrono shift from Xpeke, and then he also has the GL on top of that. It's really scary. We could have an engage kicking off here, and you're going to have the Cataclysm popped out onto Udyr.
What the heck?
I
just walked through it.
I thought he flashed because he walked through it, but his flash is still available. So...
Yeah, everyone in chat right now in the game are just like, what?
I'm kind of stunned. What the hell just happened?
Jace just coming out with impassable terrain.
Yeah, impassable terrain, unless you happen to be a huge bear man, and then you can just get it through no problems. Okay, that was a bit of a head turner for me. I'm a bit stunned, Pulse. I
mean, we also saw that before when Jarvan just walked back through it. It's just like we've seen some very interesting things from that Cataclysm so far in this game. Yeah.
And the thing is, we joke about it, but had the ultimate landed there, we could have had a massive teamfight kickoff. That could have worked right in Fnatic's favour.
Yeah.
And it's on cooldown now, and Cataclysm is down, and we are going to have an engage kicking off now from Ferellenlord taking point. He has been impaled, but has the damage been done? He's going to go down very, very quickly. Stranglethorns in the meantime is going to knock up 3 players. Beautiful work from Zyra. Zilean will go on towards Graves, so even though Ferellenlord went so deep after Zilean, they've actually turned the tides of battle. We have a huge fight kicking off all over the place here. Skarner's gone down. Bullet time has been popped off from Misfortune, who's still on full HP, going to be chasing down players, 2 of which are very low on health. Kerp goes down finally from Ari, and now you're going to have Frogger constantly slowed down from the behemoth of Misfortune. She has been charmed and hit from an Orb of Deception, which will chunk her down a fair amount, but she will continue to give chase for a couple more seconds before deciding to turn back round. So at the end of all of that, I need to catch my breath. That was a 2-for-2 exchange, but it could have been so many more kills.
Yeah, they went really balls deep because they knew obviously the ultimate was on cooldown, that being the Cataclysm, and Candy Panda wasn't even in that team fight for maybe 90% of it. He came in at the end and you saw him popping that bullet time, but that's basically when he entered the fight. And honestly, I feel like bullet time's damage has kind of scaled off at this point. I feel his auto attacks really do way more. And the fact he was only really tagging the tanks with it anyway, I guess he didn't want to get in range, but it was really at that stage where you were looking to chase after them because they really had that team fight in the bag. And had he actually just followed it with those auto attacks, he might have been able to reclaim a couple more kills. But that being said, the Flash did really counter-engage very nicely, and Ferellenlord's positioning was impeccable, so he was able to keep himself alive. So, that being said, it was a 4 versus 5, and it was still 2-for-2, as Misfortune came in at the end.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we went back to, well, if we just go back to the conversation we had probably, I guess, 10-15 minutes ago about Misfortune and Ultimate and whether it's viable. I think early to mid-game, it's quite a strong Ultimate, especially if you have the synchronization of your team kicking off as well. You know, you've got a Cataclysm, blah, blah, blah. But when you get towards late game, it definitely doesn't pack as much of a punch. You know, collateral damage is very bursty, it's going to do a lot of damage very, very quickly. Whereas Misfortune, of course, has to channel as well, so if you do get a quick stun onto her, her ultimate's basically for naught, it's going to do nothing. So her auto attacks are definitely a stronger way for dealing damage, especially with her impure shots. And also, it's important to note that double up does a lot of damage, but hold that for a second, they're going to go for a Baron. And actually, they're going to be able to pick this up more than likely, because look at Ari's position, look at the rest of Alternate. They're not really moving until now, and by the time they get close, Baron is going to be down.
Yeah, they actually left Zilean in mid to make it look like nothing was happening, but unbeknownst to them, they did actually rush that Baron. This could be a potential team fight or a pick. Cyanide with the massive movement speed from Shirelia's exoskeleton and the time warp from Zilean. Incredible movement speed from that Skarner, and they will have the initiate here from Soaz. Does he have the ultimate? Yes, he does. He has the Cataclysm, ultimate pop by Ferellenlord, and there's the Impale as well. Stranglethorns comes down into the Cataclysm, knock up onto Frogger, Cyanide potentially being picked up. There's a credit shift, keeping him alive. 2-for-0 so far, and Cyanide will be popping up with about 50% HP. Leo from Korea in a precarious position, Kerp from the side as well, as they siege down this middle turret. Creeps are coming in. That was a really, really nice team fight, and it was just all like a cluster that you just, it was all over the place.
And that came from a completely uncontested free Baron. You know, Baron is just such a big difference around 35, 36 minutes through the game, Pulse, and they just gave it away for free. The Alternate were in no position to contest that whatsoever.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice timing call from Fnatic right there. Leo come from Korea, really dicing with death. They could just pop over the wall any moment with that flag and drag combo with the rest of them following up, but definitely, like, they just didn't have it warded, and they really couldn't. They just couldn't venture out from their base, and by the time they were like, wait a minute, Zillion's the only guy on the board, it was just, and then they had people going over to the area, it's like, well, Baron's probably gone by now, and they made the right decision, backing up, making sure no one got caught, but even so, they engaged under turret, picked up 2 kills for 0, and the only person they managed to focus was Cyanide. It was pretty much, for all intents and purposes, their tank, and he got Corona shifted as well.
Yeah, very true, and a really on-money comment you made as well, Pulse, that a lot of teams and a lot of players, you'll see this especially in solo queue, as soon as they kind of have any kind of instinct that the opposition is on Baron, they'll just go hell for leather for it, even if they know Baron's probably already been taken, and as a result, they'll just get aced. It's like the Baron team's like, cheers for the free kills and the free win. There you go. So it was smart of Alternate. After a certain period of time, they're like, oh crap, they've probably already got Baron, not to try and contest that and not to try and run in and go crazy and try and steal it, because what would have happened there would have been a complete landslide crush. They would have died 5-0 ace and it probably would have been GG already.
Definitely. Like, at this stage in the game, you really can't risk, like, a person dying. Like, it makes a lot of sense if you can go for that, like, flash steal and then die for it. That makes a lot of sense. But when you're getting into this late game where it's just, like, one team fight could decide, like, an inhibitor or potentially even the game at this point with that middle inhibitor being down, then you really just can't risk it. It was a really good timing call, though, from Fnatic, basically putting them in a really bad position. And double ward goes down just for extra vision from Alternate. But right now, it looks like they will be sieging bottom, Misfortune just pushing that one in, and right now, they have all the time in the world. They know they're ahead, they have the Baron buff, and they can just siege all day until that ticks off. But even then, they are definitely ahead on the pecking order. So, basically, what can Alternate do? Will they engage on this outer turret? The answer is probably no. They know it's not enough protection, and it's still pretty much a straight-up team fight, because the damage it does is pretty much negligible. It's really nothing. Maybe on this inhibitor turret.
What they have to hope for here is to turtle in until Baron's gone and then hope that Ari lands a real precise, pixel-perfect charm, which opens up a nice, you know, free kill. But having said that, MF has Guardian's Angel, Zillion has Guardian's Angel, Soaz has Guardian's Angel onto Jarvan, and so does N-rated on Zyra. There's a lot of respawns happening here, and that's just one of them there. Soaz has just got killed, but he will be coming right back again. Nice ultimate from Leona, lands onto 2 or 3 players. Lots of low people here for Fnatic, but they are refusing to go down. This is actually a really nice fight from Alternate. But can they continue to pick up the pace here? Starting to turn a bit against them now as Cyanide is just going to be tanking all that right in the center of everything. Jay has been popped off from Kerp. You're going to have a flash in from Peke, who does get chunked down really heavily from Ari. Will be going into his Jay. Nice flash actually from Frelenlord to make sure the bomb didn't claim his life. And that will keep him alive just for a few more moments. In amongst all of this though, it's going to be an inhib taken from Fnatic at bots. That was a 3-for-1 exchange at the end. Leona is going to go back in once again. Could very well be getting taken up the equation here. Peke is going very deep onto the tower, but he has the Chrono Shift. Will be coming back up once again, and Leona will get taken out of her misery. In amongst all that, Frelenlord will be popping off the J. But as I said before, Pauls, you have so many resurrections here for Fnatic. You kill one, they come back up. You kill one, they come back up. There is nothing that Alternate can do at this point. And you do have Frelenlord saying, screw this, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. And that's exactly what happens. And again, look at how much flashes you see on Fnatic. You've got 2 of their players just flashing up red. A really heroic effort at the end, Pulse, but just too many GAs.
Yeah. 4 stars you coming from the hands of Frelenlord and chat.
And him saying, I killed you already 4,000 times. You know what, that's not even an exaggeration. He literally killed them 4,000 times.
Yeah. That's I wonder that I don't think that's physically possible at 42 minutes into the game. I don't think even that many minions spawn, but that will be the second game going to Fnatic. So I believe that's bringing it to 1-1.
It did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was absolutely insane game, and Fnatic really just showing the world that they are on the same level as Alternate, and it'll be really interesting to see how this final game goes. But so far, we've just basically seen games where they get the advantage at the start, and then they follow up. and it's just like they maintain that advantage. I think at the start, though, we did see the advantage from Alternate at the very start, but then after Fnatic picked up the pieces and basically got a couple kills, they just snowballed it, and they maintained that advantage.
Yeah, when Kerp got the double buff, and you alluded to this before, and you mentioned it earlier when you're saying how well Soaz played. When Kerp got that double buff, I thought, oh man, this is going to be really tough for Jarvan. Like, he's going to be up against it. Kerp can quite easily dominate that lane and start to roam around elsewhere and really start to impact. But to Soaz's credit, even with the double buff against him, he still stuck to his guns and he managed to just push back. And the fact he didn't die, and the fact that he was consistently... As a Jarvan, you're expecting Jarvan to die, Paul, so I'm sure you'd agree with this. His ultimate is an up-in-your-grill, in-your-face kind of thing that goes down. And if you mistime his ultimate even by a millisecond, you can just get yourself completely eradicated from the map. So Soaz was just so dead on the money all the time. But as you say, Ultimate had the advantage early on, but as the game wore on and on, you saw Fnatic's synchronization really coming to the forefront. They did lock down Ari that game. If you have a look at Game 1 compared to Game 2, it couldn't be any opposed if you tried. First game, Lord was unstoppable. Second game, he didn't really have much of an impact on the game whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely. It was just... Yeah, it was really back and forth, but... We had that, like, really janky team fights as well, like, halfway through as well. It was just like, what? But from then, we had more, like, conventional team fights, and Lord did his best, but there was very little he could really do returning into that game. So... Really interested to see what happens in this final game, whether they like pull something different out of the bag.
Indeed, and we are going to find the answers to those questions very shortly, Paul. So I don't know if you've been invited yet, or have you? I
have indeed, just waiting for Hexit to join the game, who is indeed our streamer today.
As he has been for a long time. Hexit needs he needs some love, guys. He is here all the time. I don't know how long you guys have been casting, because obviously I just joined for the finals, but I think he said since 6 o'clock, was it? So you've been like 5.5 hours now?
Yeah, or like 5 o'clock UK time, so...
Oh, okay, so even longer then. So you've been 6.5 hours casting, so...
Is that how long it's been?
Yes, it has, dude. Yeah, it definitely has. And yeah, both of you guys definitely deserve some love for bringing everybody these awesome games. And it all came down to this, best of 3 third game, and €1,000 up for grabs.
Yeah, so anyway, guys, if you'd like to check out our Facebooks, what is your Facebook, Metas?
My Facebook is MetasTV, just facebook.com/MetasTV. I get mistaken, apparently, for Joe Miller quite a lot, but I'm not him. I'm nowhere near as good as him. I never will be. He's awesome. But yeah, I'm Metas, and that's my Facebook. But how about you, Pulse?
Apparently someone thinks I'm D-Man, and once again, I am not on the same level as D-Man, but my Facebook is facebook.com/watchyourpulse if you want to check that out. It's awesome for us casters to really get some recognition, to know we're doing something right. So.
Wait, like, I can understand why people would think I sound like John Miller, because we're from the same kind of area in the UK, and I think my voice sounds a bit like his. But you and D-Man,
yeah,
aren't you from like completely different places?
I don't know, but apparently someone does think I sound like D-Man. So.
Well, it's a compliment, of course, but
yeah,
it's strange. Then again, someone called me Irish or Welsh or something the other day, and I was like, I don't sound Irish or Welsh even remotely.
Fantastic.
So, what's happening with Game 3? You guys are still waiting for the invites?
Yeah, we are actually in, and XPEC here is just asking whether we are ready. So we're actually going to go ahead and say, you are ready.